Hello and welcome back to the channel. So, you'd like to get started in astronomy. Well, I thought it'd be good to just have a quick look at the way I'm kind of doing it. It might just be the right way for you. Welcome back to Ours the Astro. So, before I get into it, first of all, I'd just like to thank every new subscriber and people who's watched the video, liked and commented. It does mean the absolute most to me. If you are new to the channel and you'd like to drop a like or subscribe or a comment, feel free. I'm open to suggestions. If you think I'm doing anything wrong, if you think I'm doing something right, just let me know. All the help is gratefully received. I consider myself still very much a beginner with astronomy and astrophotography, even though I've owned a telescope for 10 years. But we'll see why that kind of comes together in as we go through everything that I've kind of gone through. So, from the very beginning, back in 2014, my partner bought me, we were in Curry's, I think it was, at the time, and they had a stand with some Celestron telescopes, and I made a comment, I'd like them, it looked good to look at moon, and yada yada yada. And then following Christmas, she came and got me this. So this was technically my first telescope, Celestron Astromaster 76. And like every good boyfriend, what I immediately did was took it straight back to the shop and got that one instead. So for quite a long time, I have a Celestron Astromaster 130. Now you can tell it's quite an old one because it hasn't got the red dot finder scope. It's got the old style on, which are terrible. They are really difficult to align. Once you do align them, it's difficult to find things with it. It's absolutely terrible. The difference that one of those makes is ridiculously good. So that being said, basically I had this telescope and I would get it out from time to time and didn't really know how to use it and all the stuff you get from a starter, being a beginner. It's this big thing here. What the hell's this thing? This do and how's this work and all that kind of stuff. Really kind of struggled with it, and it was in and out. And then we had it was. I think the biggest problem you have with any telescope is not being able to get it out. It's having somewhere to store it, and the reason being is not what you think. It's kind of like you can have a telescope which you can collapse down, which can travel really, really easily, but when you want to use it regularly, you don't want to be stripping it all the way down every time. You want something you can get out, put in your garden within a couple of seconds, and get going with it. You don't want to be spending half an hour putting the mount together, putting the mount head on top, putting the telescope on. You just want to just get the mount out, stick it down, telescope on, away you go. That's the kind of thing you want. And that was the struggle I had for a long time, was storing it somewhere where I could store it and it wasn't fully collapsed. So a couple of years ago we moved to this present location now. We're here in Ardsley HQ, and we've got a garden now. I've got somewhere where I can put it away, so it's still half assembled. I can just quickly get it outside and blah blah. Started learning everything then. So we learned how to polar align it properly. Well, I say properly, polar align it as much as you can with these, because it can be difficult, but this thing's got a motor on it. The motor's terrible, but it's a 5-inch Newtonian, so you can see a lot with it. And the whole reason I wanted this one over this one is this one's a 3-inch tube, 700mm focal length. This one's a 5-inch tube with a 600mm focal length. It captures a lot more light, and it's a slightly wider field of view, basically. So that was kind of the first things I kind of got. And then something happened. Because I like scouring eBay for things, I happened to look on eBay last November, and I found one of these. So this is, I can't really enlarge the picture unfortunately, this is a Skywatcher 130p EQ2. So it's 130p because it's a parabolic mirror, whereas that one's got a spherical mirror. Parabolic's best, I think, is better than spherical, is the easiest way to kind of put it. The mount's a lot sturdier. The tripod, sorry. The mount itself is a little bit flimsier, but it's got this bit here which accepts a stepper motor, which is pre-programmed for a set speed. The motor that you attach to this one isn't, and it's got a control box, and you can fast forward. You can like skip it forward a bit, or you can stop it, so you can allow things to catch up. And it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. As a beginner, I would always buy that every single time. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. The eyepieces which come with it are better than the ones that come with that one. I think the only saving grace this one has is the mount head's a little bit sturdier. The tripod's terrible, absolutely terrible. It rocks and wiggles and bowls about everywhere. But the thing about this one is all the astro imaging I've been doing so far have been done with that telescope. Not the mount, but the actual optical tube itself. Everything I've done has been with that tube. So it just shows you how good this particular optical tube is. And I think the only side thing from it than having one of the more expensive 5-inch telescopes is the focuser, because it's a parabolic mirror, the same as what's in like a 130 PDS, which the optical tube alone is about £230, maybe 240, I can't remember exactly. Whereas this, you can buy this brand new as a whole set for £237, I think it is. We can double check in a minute actually, but yes, it's about 230 odd pounds. And I found it on eBay for the princely sum of £45, which I think was an absolute bargain. The chap I bought it off, it turns out he had bought it in lockdown. He had put it up in his conservatory 3 times, so it had never even been outside. And that were it. And then I snagged it off him off eBay for £45, so I feel like a lucky bugger with that. Anyway, of course, the first thing that everyone tries to do with a telescope, and this is the reason I say that, everyone says, "Oh, they only want to do visual." It is until they try and hold the camera up to it, and then as soon as they hold the camera up to it, they want to do better things with it. So, of course, with both this one and this one, you can get a little mount and put your phone up to it, up to the eyepiece, and you can take a picture of what's actually coming through the actual eyepiece itself. And that's good, that works. But eventually, you're going to want to attach an actual camera to it. And there's all sorts of cheap models of cameras out there. So one thing I bought was this, and this is a SV Bonet SV205C. They've got 2 models of this cheap cameras. There's this one and there's an SV105. This one's 4K, the other one's 1080p. I'd get the other one. I won't get this one. I'd get the other one. This is good, but it zooms in so much on the moon, for instance. You cannot get the full disc of the moon in. I mean, I struggle with another one of the cameras, but definitely I would go with the 105 rather than this one. We have also got we were also attaching this to it. This is my partner's Canon EOS 500D. The problem with trying to attach one of these to one of these is that bit there, the focuser. So when you attach a DSLR to a telescope without anything in between eyepieces or anything, it's called prime focus, and you'll hear that a lot if you're trying to attach a camera to a telescope. And the problem is that the sensor in this camera is so far back inside the camera. It's from the front over here to where the actual sensor is. It's 44 millimeters. You cannot attach the camera to that focuser and focus at all. You can't get the focus point in. You can't get the focus point. You can't move the focus tube, the focuser in far enough. There's a point where it just doesn't work. So you cannot prime focus a DSLR on one of these. So you have to use something called a Barlow lens, and this is something I learned only recently. Not the Barlow lens, but this bit. I was using a 2x Barlow lens. So you think, well, the focal length of the telescope is 650 millimeters. Barlow lens, basically, whatever power it is, you times that by your focal length. So if you've got 2x Barlow, 650 millimeters, it becomes 1300. It's that simple, really. The problem is when there's a 2x Barlow, not a 2x Barlow, when you're trying to attach it with a camera. So it's kind of the same thing, where the focal point is that far back from where the Barlow lens is it doesn't become a 2x Barlow. I think I worked it out. It's actually about a 2.8x Barlow. So you are mega zoomed in onto objects and things. You're even more zoomed in than the next camera I bought, but we'll go into that in a second. So we did some trial runs with this on Moon. So that I've got a Moon one with this, and I've got Moon videos with the SV205, and then we tried doing some deep space objects. But for deep space objects, you can't use that mount. Just doesn't work. You need something which can track, and then you can set up some form of guiding with as well. So we bought a mount, and this was only in April. That's how long I have been doing any kind of deep space object astrophotography. April. It's now November the 3rd, 2024. So not very long at all. So we went and bought that little bugger. Skywatcher EQ AL55i Pro. I do like the mount. I can't say I don't, even though it's gone back to the shop and I'm getting something different. Yes, that's right. We are saying goodbye to the EQ AL55i. The problem I had with it is, I'm going to get rid of that menu, is the axis, the RA and the deck, when it comes new, it feels a little bit too tight. So trying to balance the telescope on it, and we can do videos on that. We can do any videos you like. If you want me to do a video, ask me and I will do one. So balancing an RA and deck was always a little bit difficult. But the biggest problem I had is that when they came from the supplier, the deck had a lot of backlash in it, and you've seen my other video where I'm trying to remove that backlash out of it. The first one, I think I nearly got it out, but then the supplier asked, Flow asked for it back to have a quick look at, and they sent me another one, and then the other one was just ridiculous. I couldn't get it anywhere near. There was a high point on the deck, so as it rotated, it always hit the high point. It wasn't good. So again, Flow asked for it back. They had it in their workshop. They checked it. They were going to try and do some adjustments on it, but they offered me a credit note. So I took the credit note and I've ordered something else, but it wasn't in stock at the time. So I'm just waiting for that to arrive, hopefully next week. So I haven't been able to do any astro images or anything for a while. But all the deep space astro images were done with this mount as well. The problem with the deck isn't that it doesn't stay still, is that every so often it will drift off, and then it'll take ages to pull it back, and then it might drift off in the other direction, and it'll take ages to pull it back. So you would lose quite a few sub exposures just by that drifting off. So the offer of the credit note, I was grateful. I mean, I bought it in April. The credit note I had received in October, beginning of October. So I'm grateful to Flow, and we'll see what the new mount is. And when the new mount arrives, we'll do all the usual unboxing and all that good stuff. And yeah, so that should be interesting. Anyway, so the first two deep space objects I tried to take a picture of, I used the Canon. And the Canon's good, but it takes a lot of work to use a DSLR over a dedicated astronomy camera. Not so much taking the pictures themselves, it's taking the calibration frames you need. And I didn't have anything to take flats with, and I didn't know what I was doing with taking flats, to be honest, the first time round. And again, I can do a video on calibration frames for the uninitiated. I mean, there's loads of videos out there, but I'm happy to do one if you would like. So I went and bought this, and I bought it from the SV Boney website as well. I think the 205 I bought from Amazon, that I bought from the SV Boney website. It takes a little bit longer for things to come when you order from here, but it's cheaper. And I can let you into, it's not a secret really, but if we look here, ZWO's cameras planetary are in them. Here we go. That camera is essentially that camera. They've got the exact same sensors in them. I think the only real difference between the two is the amount of memory in them. I think this has got a slightly higher DDR3 memory in it. That's got 256 gig. I think the SV10 has only got, how much memory has it got in it? 128. Yeah, so it's got half the memory. It's not a problem though. Each frame off this is 16 meg. So it's only if you're doing planetary, full frame, moon or planetary, could the memory ever really be used. And it basically means that if there was a problem in your PC and it wasn't able to receive the frames straight away, that could probably hold about 9, whereas the ZWO one could hold probably 18. That's basically the difference between them. And then obviously once your PC's catched up, it all just gets dumped onto your PC anyway. So you can see the price difference. £229 comes instead of $399. I think on Flow, I can't remember how much they are. I think they're over the £300 mark, so it's saving like £100. And I think, I mean, you've seen all these images. So this is the M33 processed. That's the M31, M27, and that's my M13. So all those were taken with the SV Boney camera, every single one of them. And I think you'll have to agree, even though that telescope's out of collimation and a few other bits and pieces, that they are really good images. I'll get rid of that. So what else did we do? We needed some form of guiding, so my children graciously bought me that, because I was trying to, when you're doing any kind of deep space object astrophotography, you need some form of guiding on it. So that's what I used, and I tried to use the SV205 planetary camera with that as guiding. So that wasn't the best idea, and because I was having it wasn't much guiding issues, but I wanted to make sure that I was doing everything right with this mount before it got sent back or whatever. So what I ended up buying was that kit there. So it's a 50mm guide scope, an SV905C camera, and a plate to hold it to the ring tubes of that telescope. And that's where I am now. So all the equipment I've got, I haven't got a new OTA yet, say a new mount's on its way. Those are the cameras I am using. Nothing special, nothing mega expensive. Yeah, that's pretty much it. But if you're just starting out on your astronomy journey, what people tend to say to you is you want something like a Dob, which is a Dobsonian. So let's just look at some telescopes. First of all, let's look at the one that I've actually bought. Do these in ascending. So there it is. That's the one that I bought from eBay for £45. You can buy it new today, £237 from Flow and other retailers. I'm not Flow affiliated. There is another version, which is this one here, which you might get confused between the two. Please don't. This one comes, and people might go for this more, this one comes with the motor drive with it for 249 quid, and then you think that's a bargain. It's not the same. So it's a longer focal length telescope with a spherical mirror, whereas the other one is a shorter focal length with a parabolic mirror. That's where the difference in price comes from, with this being able to have the motor drive with it. That's the motor drive kit I bought as well. I think the motor drive kit on its own was about £80. So it's not mega expensive, but for me, if you're wanting to get into telescopes in any way, I'd go for that one. I really would. So what some other people say is about Dobsonians. Now these are tabletop Dobsonians, which you can stick on a table, which is right if you've got some garden furniture and stuff outside. But if you're doing Dobsonian, you're doing visual mainly, because you can do astrophotography off them, but it's not easy. An equatorial mount is always easier. And so if you're doing a Dobsonian, let's see, what do we have? We've got some Dobsonians. Yes, here we go. So let's go ascending again. So in the Dobsonian range, for the same money, what can you get? So you can have that one, which is a tabletop 150, which is a 6-inch telescope. You've got a classic Dobsonian. So this is one you would sit on the ground, and then it rotates, and you can lift the telescope up and down. And that's how you find objects. The thing with it is that trying to find objects, I think, would be more difficult with a Dobsonian than it would be with an equatorial mount, because an equatorial mount's got setting rings on it to help you find things. But you learn to find things with jumping from stars. So you find out what one star is, and then find the next one, and you know you've got an object that you want over here somewhere. So then you use that as a directional pointer to get to the next one. If I was going to buy a Dob, it would be that one, I think. I can't remember what the focal length is on it. 1200 millimeters. 5.91. Yeah, it's probably that one. And the reason being is it's an 8-inch wide aperture, and when you're doing visual, aperture is king. You need aperture because you need to get as much light in from the objects as you possibly can. With you doing visual, it's very instantaneous. When you're doing astrophotography, it's about how much time you can get on an object. So if you're doing something visual, you need that instantaneous, so you need as large an aperture as you can get. If you're doing something astrophotography wise, you don't need as big an aperture because you can extend your exposure time, and that's why we do sub-exposures and take many of them and stack them together and do all that good stuff. For instance, with that telescope, looking at that, the only thing you will see is a grey smudge. And I call it a smudge because if you look, there's a thing called averted vision, so if you look slightly off, you can see it better. And you can, I think you can just make out that it is a cluster of stars rather than, you can't make out individual stars, but you can make out that it's a cluster of stars. But if you just looking at it, all you will see is a smudge. And that is the same for most deep space objects that are clusters and galaxies and all that kind of stuff. You will not see them with any kind of, being able to tell what it is with a 5-inch telescope. You need something bigger or a darker skies. I live in a Bottle 6, which it's not too bad around here, but we've just bought a caravan in Bridlington. Well, my parents have just bought a caravan in Bridlington, so that's Bottle 4. So I'm hoping to get out there with my gear and see what we can do there. But yeah, if you're doing visual, aperture is king. But I always say the first time you'll see something, like you see Pleiades through a telescope, you want to take a picture of it. You really will, because everyone wants to take pictures of everything these days. So the first thing you'll do is you'll want to take a picture from it. And yes, you can do astrophotography with a Dobsonian, but I wouldn't like to personally. I don't. How hard that would be, I don't know. And then after that point, it's all about budget, because as I say, aperture is king doing visual. So you can get a Dobsonian 250, but the price goes up. I personally think, and it's not what a lot of people say. A lot of people will say go for a Dobsonian or something to kind of get your interest going. But I think you can get your interest going, should I say, with one of these. Let's better look at it. One of these, and just learning to use it. You learn to use this properly, and then how you set it up and how you polar align it, and it sets you in good stead. Because everything you do with the mount to do astrophotography with, you do with that. You'll set it up, you'll level the tripod, you'll put the mount head on it, you'll try and get it polar aligned, you put your telescope on, you learn you can rotate it within the tubes for different things, and you learn how it tracks the sky, how an equatorial mount works. An equatorial mount works in the way that once you're pointing as an object, to follow it all night long, the only thing you need to turn is that wheel. strap a motor on that wheel, it'll run it yourself. You should, in theory, be able to go out, set it up, point at an object, walk back inside, leave it 2 hours, come back out, look through an eyepiece, and it'll still be there. And that's the whole point. And that's exactly what you're trying to do with astrophotography anyway, because you want to keep that object in the eyepiece the entire time. Okay, I think that's it. I think I've waffled on long enough. Again, thanks so very much for joining me. Please like and subscribe and do all the YouTuber things, and I will see you when my new mount arrives, and we'll get the unboxing and we'll get that out, and we'll get some astrophotography done. Okay, chat later.